Xiao Long Bao or Chinese Soup Dumpling is perhaps the most perfect single bite of dumpling that could be ever conceived by man. Now, if you never tried Xiao Long Bao and don't have any authentic Chinese restaurants near you, well, good news. Today, I'm going to show you how to make Xiao Long Bao. As always, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more content from me. So the first part of making Xiao Long Bao is making the aspic. To make the aspic, you need around 230 to 250 grams of pork skin or pork fat. Now, to further enhance the flavors of your aspic, I highly recommend adding some pork bones or some chicken bones to your aspic. So alright, to a pot of cold water, toss everything in and turn up the heat till it starts to simmer. Now this process basically cleans off any impurities. So once it starts simmering in boiling water, take it off, filter it, and wash it with some cold water. So the next part, we're going to add in 4 cups of water to a clean pot. Then add back in your pork fat and pork skin to the water. Then add 1 tablespoon of Shaoxing Wine. Add in a couple pieces of ginger and scallion to your water. After adding all those pieces, bring it to a roaring simmer, then bring it back to a low temperature and let it simmer for 2 hours. So after 2 hours, this is what your aspic should look like. So grab a strainer and a cup and filter off your aspic. So once everything is filtered, I'm going to put this in the fridge and let it cool off. After a couple of hours, it should start to solidify. Now, after 16 hours, my aspic looks something similar to jelly and does shake like jelly. Now, if you have trouble solidifying into jelly, I highly recommend that you get some gelatin on hand and try again by reheating your aspic and adding 1 teaspoon of this stuff to your mixture. So alright, let's put this aside and let's continue. So another thing I like to do to enhance the flavor of the Xiao Long Bao is making scallion water. To make scallion water you need 1 to 2 teaspoons of scallion minced, 1 tablespoon of ginger minced, 1 tablespoon of Sichuan peppercorn, and about half a cup of hot water. With all this, we're going to add everything to the hot water and let it sit for about 10 minutes. So once everything is combined, grab your trusty chopsticks and give it a good stir and put it aside for 10 minutes. To make the filling, we're going to use a food processor. To the food processor, we're going to add about 450 grams of ground pork, about 6 to 7 grams of salt, 6 grams of sugar, half a teaspoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing Wine, 3 teaspoons of soy sauce, a couple of dashes of white pepper powder, and a tablespoon of ginger finely minced. So before we start processing everything, we're going to filter our scallion water. So grab our scallion water from earlier before and filter it. Now with the scallion water, we're not going to add it directly, but we're going to first process the meat first before we add the scallion water. So put everything on your food processor, put on your top, and pulse it for about 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, add in your scallion water to the mixture and process it again for another 30 seconds. And there you go. So now we're ready to add the aspic into your filling. And you want to do this manually by hand because you don't want the food processor to heat up your aspic and melt it. So after mixing it for a few minutes, this is what your filling should look like. And you can see the aspic in tiny pieces, and that's exactly what you want. So cover it up and put it in the fridge to marinate overnight. So for the dough, you're going to need about 140 grams of all-purpose flour, and this will make about around 20 xiaolongbao, and that'll be used about a third of the meat filling, so size accordingly. So for the next part, we're going to be using a dough mixer to make life easier. And with that, add in about 90 ml of warm water, and we'll add that gradually in the dough as it starts to mix. So after you've incorporated all the water in the dough, give it an additional 15 to 20 minutes of mixing. So after mixing for 15 to 20 minutes, give it additional mix by hand, and the dough should feel smooth, elastic, and bouncy. And this is what it should sound like. So alright, grab your plastic wrap and cover it up and let it rest for additional 30 minutes at least. So after 30 minutes, flour your workspace because we don't want the dough to stick to anything. Now if your dough still feels sticky, work it out with the flour on the table. Now at this point, you should be rolling it out into a long log. So when it comes to sectioning off your dough for your xiaolongbao, you generally want to aim for 10 to 11 grams each, no more. So this is what the dough pieces look like in comparison to my dum. So grab your flour and dust everything off. So with the palm of your hand, squish each dough pieces, and this will help with the rolling process. So our dough filling has been resting overnight, and give it a good mix before we start. So here's the most difficult part, listen carefully. So you want to flour your dough, press to the palm of your hand, and roll it out tapered towards the edges. By the time you finish, it should be semi-transparent when you hold it up against the light. Just like this. So your filling size should be similar size to your dough, and place it in the center. So when it comes to wrapping your xiaolongbao, you give it a good pinch on one side really hard, and use your index finger to guide the rest of the pleats, and generally using your other hand to guide the rest of the pleats. And what I like to do is I like to pinch 3 times, move over a couple of centimeters, pinch 3 times, and continue this process along the circumference of your xiaolongbao. Now if any of the meat starts to protrude outside, use your other thumb to push it back in, and continue with the rest of the pleats. And there you go, one beautiful xiaolongbao. Now put this on your parchment paper and put this on the side. And I'm going to complete the rest of these xiaolongbaos and get back to you. So when it comes to dipping sauce, I have here is black vinegar mixed with some matchsticks of ginger. So generally you want to eat your xiaolongbao on a spoon to capture all that soup water. And just to see what's inside, let's see how well I did. Just look at all that soup dumpling oozing out. And that's one perfect xiaolongbao. So the reason why we left a hole in the top is because we could add our xiaolongbao sauce on top, and that allows us to eat your xiaolongbao as one big piece. Just delicious. I really wish you guys were here to try out these xiaolongbaos. So that's all I have for today. If you found this video informative and interesting, hit the like button. If you want to see more content from me, hit the subscribe button. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, put in the section below. Until next time, happy cooking and peace out.